So the other day, my kiddo was playing a game where she colored on her friends and her friends colored on her. And this is a really common game for kids. They have a lot of fun. It's for anybody who's got an artistically inclined kid, it's a great way for them to have fun and enjoy themselves. But here's the thing. So she comes home and she's kind of like sour and she's starting to feel these feelings like, I don't know how I feel about this, right? Um, of course, I'm like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Are you not okay? So what I found out is there's a few things she did like about the coloring, right? Now, here's the thing. So I'm making this video because I want to teach you how to teach your kids how to set boundaries for their own bodies, but also how to have this conversation with their friends so they can have a good body coloring experience or other experiences too. So one of the things that I had to do to help her start to identify what her own boundaries are in this situation is to help her start looking at like what was okay with it and what was not okay. What did she like? What did she not like? Why? And so that's part of the digging we as parents need to do to help kids kind of figure out, all right, what's okay? What's not okay? So as we were digging and exploring, it turns out she wasn't expecting them to color on her belly. So there was markings on her belly, there were markings on her arms and legs. And so she said, I thought we were only going to color on our arms and legs. I didn't know we were going to color our bellies and I didn't like it. And so I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know if you know this, but it's okay for you to say, hey, I'm okay with us coloring each other, but let's only do our arms and legs. That's called the boundary. And so this is me, sorting through and teaching her a little bit about like, how do you set boundaries? Where are boundaries, right? So then we dig a little deeper and she's like, well, I also, we used Sharpie and Sharpie's more permanent. It's hard to wash off. So I wasn't okay with the kind of marker they were using. And I was like, oh, okay, well, just so you know, this is a boundary that you can set, that you're allowed to say, hey, I only want to use these kinds of markers. And again, it's interesting because all of this whole conversation is like it's a great way essentially to teach your kid how to set boundaries for themselves and how to feel comfortable in their skin. Um, but she wouldn't have learned this had we not had this experience, right? So then there was one more boundary that she said she just didn't like the picture that one of the girls drew. One of the girls drew a dead body on her, and she did not like the dead body. So I was like, okay, so I want you to know that you can also tell kids that I'm okay with this kind of picture, but I'm not okay with this kind of picture. I would like this, but I would not like this. So I want to teach you guys as parents who are listening how to set really clear boundaries with your kids because kids like, all right, first of all, she loves coloring. I'm never going to get her to stop coloring. And to say you just don't ever color your friends, well, that's not fair. I mean, it's fun to color. Think of it like, like a kid's version of tattooing, right? Like there's something cool about coloring yourselves and coloring your friends. So I don't want her to never have the opportunity to look at things or to play like it's a pleasurable activity, but I do want to teach her how to set boundaries for herself for when she's in those experiences. So when you as a parent are faced with some of these situations, I want you to really think about like, okay, how do you help your kid identify piece by piece, point by point, what are my boundaries, what am I okay or what am I not okay with? But then even beyond that, in the interaction between kids, we need to be equipping kids to ask certain questions, right? So like, I want these kids to color each other again. I expect them to color again for sure. But like the things they could ask each other as they're going into color could look like, hey, what markers do you want us to use? So like the kids could like put the markers out on the ground and be like, hey, you pick the colors and markers that you want us to use on you. That is giving the person being colored consent. It's a consent conversation. The next question that somebody can ask, we can be equipping our kids to ask is, where are you okay with me coloring? Where on your body do you want me to color? Where do you on your body is off limits? Again, think of this amazing question, like equipping and empowering your kids to advocate for themselves and advocate for everyone in a situation. So that's another question that can be asked. And then again, a third question can be, what things are you okay with me drawing? What do you like? What do you want me to draw on you? I will draw things that will be cool. I have this idea. Are you okay with this idea? If you hear that, that's all consent language. It's questions and asking and making sure they know that it's okay. One, it's okay to ask for what you're okay with being drawn on. And two, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have boundaries that feel good to you. And then the other thing is I think I run into this a lot with parents where they're like, well, just never do it again. You just need to say no. Just say no. My daughter loves coloring. She's not going to say no. Like, she wants to color and she wants to be colored. So no, we need to give them more than that in order to advocate for themselves. So instead of saying no, you just can never color again. Let's give them proactive ways to talk about it so that they can enjoy the experience and give them opportunities to practice with each other. Like that actually is what I want. Is I want her to get into that coloring experience again, but feel equipped to take care of herself. And so the other thing that I think that I don't think you all realize is that this is a form of trust building. Like when we set and follow through with boundaries and respect boundaries, we're actually building trust in relationships. So like a little interaction like this, like coloring your kids, is a great opportunity to create boundaries and to build trust and to teach them how to feel comfortable in their skin. And I just want you to like fast forward to like the future, right? Like when my kid is a teen and she wants to be kissing and making out or maybe, trying sexy things. I know it's scary because she's 9, but the reality is there's going to come a time where she's going to want to be sexy and sexual. And so if I just tell her, well, just don't do that. You say no, either yes or no, well, then it's pleasurable to kiss. It's pleasurable to touch. It's pleasurable to explore bodies. Those things are fun. And she's not going to say no forever. I can't just like, no, block. Like that's not going to work. So a conversation like this where you teach your kid how to say, hey, I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this. Let's try this, but let's keep this off limits, is a great opportunity to teach them sex ed for later, for when they're making out. That same conversation can go in a teenager conversation like this. Hey, I am interested in kissing, but that's all I'm open to right now. And I don't know that I want a long kiss, maybe like just 2 or 3 seconds. Look at how good that sounds to advocate for yourself. Like you can say, I'm okay with kissing. I'm not okay with any touching or any more stuff. You can say, like, these are the things teens do. So sorry, but it's going to get a little graphic. It's like they do hand stuff with each other, right? So I'm okay with over the clothes, not under the clothes. I'm okay with you feeling me up. I'm okay with us dry humping, but I'm not okay with any of my clothes coming off. I'm not okay with you penetrating me. I'm not okay with oral sex. Like, these are all the things. Like, I know it's hard to see it because when you have a 9-year-old, you're only thinking about crayons and markers, and it's like, oh, how can I think of them like this? But if you equip them at this age to advocate for themselves, to have consent conversations, but also to clarify that they have boundaries and that it's okay to have boundaries, think of the way you're empowering your kid for their whole life. So I really encourage you to start having these conversations very real, very clearly. Don't get lost in that black and white thinking, but like really, really teach kids that they can do fun things and pleasurable things and have different boundaries within those pleasurable activities. And that even starts with coloring on each other's bodies. Thank you all for joining me.